For my in-school literacy practice project, I chose to observe calendar time each morning in my first grade classroom. Let's take a deeper look into why room 103 really is the place to be. Prior to calendar time, the students choose a book to read from the classroom library while they wait for the teacher to begin class. These books may include fairy tales, biographies, fiction, and nonfiction books, and it's totally up to them whichever book they want to choose. Calendar time is conducted mostly on the smartboard. The teacher will always write the date on the board and ask the students to recite the date together. The students are always actively engaged in calendar time. While sitting on the colorful rug, students answer questions such as what day of the week it is, what was yesterday, and what day is tomorrow. As you can see in this slide, another question during calendar time asks the students how they arrived at school that day. Students are allowed to choose a color to write with and make a tally mark under the category that applies to their mode of transportation for the day. After covering the daily questions, the students and teacher will work together to write a paragraph that incorporates word wall words. Word wall words are the key vocabulary in this classroom. In order to successfully comprehend classroom literacy practices, the students must know how to pronounce and spell each word wall word. It is essential that students learn these words in order to effectively communicate with their teacher and peers. The paragraph is written on the smartboard by the teacher, and it usually relates to an activity the students will complete later in the day. Activities include math practices, learning labs, and readers' workshop activities. To finish out calendar time, the students and teachers sing the classroom song together. The classroom library consists of nearly 350 books. As you can see in this slide, the books are arranged in cases and some are stored in neatly labeled bins to make choosing a book much easier for the students. There are many different genres of books present in the classroom. From fiction to fantasies, this library has it all. With only 18 students in the classroom, there are plenty of books to go around. There are 2 bookcases in the classroom that only the teacher has access to, while the rest of the bookcases are accessible for the students. About half of the environmental print in the classroom is student-produced. At the beginning of the year, the students work together to create their own classroom alphabet. This approach allows students to take part in their own learning process. The classroom walls are also decorated with student work. Displaying the children's sentences, pictures, and other forms of literacy create a student-friendly environment. The other half of the environmental print in the classroom is teacher-produced. Classroom rules and expectations are scattered throughout the classroom. As you can see in the picture, there's also a specific way the students must sit on the carpet. During calendar time, the students are expected to sit like a champ in their assigned spots. If a student misbehaves, it is a clear indication that they don't comprehend appropriate classroom behaviors established by the teacher and school principal. In observing calendar time, I noticed that this practice reflected the inquiry model and bottom-up theory. Calendar time is a collaboration between the teacher and students, and neither dominates the entire practice. At the end of calendar time, the teacher reads a book related to the day's lesson. While the teacher ultimately makes the final decision, the students can also influence which book she chooses. The bottom-up theory can be seen in the fact that students must have mastered phonetic skills in kindergarten to successfully work with the teacher and their peers. Students are encouraged to sound out every word and have a thorough understanding of the alphabet. For my out-of-school literacy project, I chose to watch the channel ESPN and shows such as SportsCenter and NFL Sunday Live. The only time I've ever seen SportsCenter was when my dad was watching, and most of the time I had no idea what was being discussed on the show. Because I've had such little exposure to sports-related television, I thought that watching ESPN would be the perfect literacy practice to participate in. The channel ESPN covers mostly all sporting events. Some shows focus solely on a specific sport, while other shows such as SportsCenter chronicle many different sporting events. Sports such as basketball, baseball, soccer, tennis, and even poker can be studied on ESPN. There are many different forms of text in the ESPN community. One form of text commonly seen on ESPN is player statistics. These include batting averages, points scored, touchdowns, yards ran, and other pieces of information that apply to only one player in particular. ESPN will feature player statistics of athletes that they are covering during a specific sporting event. As you can see in these two pictures, text are always on the television screen. During games and even commercials, sports-related information is always scrolling on the bottom of the screen to keep viewers up to date with the latest sports information. Another unique feature of the ESPN literacy community is that you can actually get text sent to your phone to keep sports fans up to date on the latest information. In the ESPN community, the texts are controlled by the television hosts and sports analysts and anchors that cover the sporting events. They choose what will be discussed and how they would like to present this information. For example, on the NFL Sunday Countdown show, the anchors converse about upcoming football games. Oftentimes, the anchors will pause on a play in a football game to show the viewer certain player and team formations on the field. Key vocabulary in the ESPN community features acronyms such as NFL, NBA, NHL, and the NCAA. Because members of this community use acronyms quite often, code breaking is essential to thoroughly comprehend sports dialogue. The reader response model directly relates to the ESPN community because it requires viewers to make personal connections to the text. Whether they connected to their previous involvement in sports or simply time spent watching football games, members of this environment are constantly making connections. Upon observing the classroom calendar time and watching ESPN, I took some time to compare the different environments. While they each have their own specific characteristics and practices, they are more similar than one may think. The school community is mostly a child-centered environment, while the ESPN community is controlled solely by adults. There are actual books in the classroom, while ESPN texts are graphic images on the television screen. The biggest difference between the two resides in the fact that every form of literacy in ESPN is nonfiction, including facts and opinions from the sports anchors and analysts. Contrary to ESPN, there are many fiction books present in the classroom. Although the differences may seem overwhelming, I was surprised to find just as many similarities. Each community has an assessment aspect. The ESPN community assesses an athlete's performance, while the teacher assesses students' performance in the classroom. Code breaking is essential in each environment as well as building upon background knowledge. Most importantly, it's key for members in each community to be able to collaborate with their peers.